Some time ago, a video explored unsettling drawings made by children, blending humor with eerie undertones. While many were dismissed as playful, a few hinted at darker origins. Over time, several disturbing stories tied to children's artwork were shared, leading to a compilation of the most unsettling cases. One incident involved a 6-year-old boy in 2012. His older sister discovered a drawing in his room depicting the family at dinner. Everyone recognizable except for a shadowy figure seated behind the table. When questioned, the boy refused to explain, insisting he wasn't allowed to say who the man was. The figure, dressed in black with reddish-brown curls, unnerved the sister enough to alert their parents. They dismissed it as an imaginary friend. But strange occurrences followed. The sister later overheard her brother talking to someone in his room and found unfamiliar candies scattered on the floor. When pressed, the boy remained silent. One night, after he was grounded, the sister heard him whispering past bedtime. She rushed in to find him at his open window, speaking to a man about to climb inside. Her scream sent the intruder fleeing. Police were called, and the boy finally admitted the stranger had been giving him treats and toys, instructing him to keep their meetings secret. Another case involved a mother whose 6-year-old son repeatedly woke in terror, claiming a figure emerged from his closet and stood at the foot of his bed. Despite checks revealing nothing, his fear persisted. When asked to draw the entity, his sketch, a ghoul-like creature, horrified his parents. They eventually moved him to another room. Without a closet, the final account centered on an 11-year-old boy in Canada. His babysitter discovered disturbing drawings and writings in his room, detailing violent fantasies about her. One page depicted him holding a knife while she slept. Alarmed, she found an actual kitchen knife on his nightstand and alerted his parents, who dismissed it at first, but later arranged for his grandmother to take over. The babysitter left, urging them to seek professional help for the boy. Each story serves as a chilling reminder of the unsettling realities that can lurk behind seemingly innocent childhood creations. The unsettling nature of these accounts raises questions about the thin line between childhood imagination and something far more disturbing. In each case, the children's drawings weren't just scribbles. They were windows into experiences that left their families deeply unsettled. In the first story, the boy's secretive behavior and the appearance of an unknown man at his window suggest possible grooming or an attempted abduction. The fact that the stranger had been luring him with candy, a classic predator tactic, added a layer of real-world danger to what initially seemed like an eerie but harmless drawing. The second case, with the boy terrified of a figure in his closet, could be dismissed as night terrors. Except for the chilling detail in his sketch, the way he insisted the closet door was always open, despite his parents closing it, hinted at something more persistent than a simple nightmare. Moving him to another room stopped the incidents, but the question lingered. Had he truly imagined it, or had something been visiting him? Then there was the final story, which took a darker turn. The boy's fixation on weapons and his violent writings about his babysitter went beyond typical childhood rebellion. The discovery of an actual knife in his room confirmed that his drawings weren't just fantasies. They were plans. His parents' initial dismissal and eventual reluctant intervention highlight how easily warning signs can be overlooked until it's almost too late. These stories serve as unsettling reminders that children's art can sometimes be more than just play. Whether it's a hidden trauma, an unseen danger, or a disturbing fixation, their drawings can reveal truths that words alone cannot express. And in some cases, those truths are far more frightening than anyone would want to believe. What makes these cases so chilling is how they blur the line between childhood fantasy and disturbing reality. The innocence of crayon drawings and scribbled stories masks something far more unsettling lurking beneath the surface. Take the first boy's encounter with the stranger at his window. This wasn't just an imagina, my friend. It was a real person systematically grooming a child, using candy and secrecy to manipulate him. The drawing was essentially a cry for help that nearly went unnoticed until the situation escalated dangerously. The second boy's nightly visitor is equally troubling. While sleep paralysis or nightmares could explain some of it, the consistency of his claims and the visceral fear in his drawings suggest something more. The fact that moving rooms stopped the occurrences raises unsettling questions. Was there ever really someone or something watching him from that closet? As for the final case, it's a stark reminder that not all childhood obsessions are harmless. The boy's detailed plans and hidden weapon crossed into dangerous territory, showing how quickly dark fantasies can become real threats. His parents' initial hesitation to take it seriously is understandable, yet terrifying in hindsight. These stories share a common thread: adults dismissing children's warnings until the situation becomes undeniably alarming. They make us wonder, how many other unsettling drawings are brushed off as mere imagination? How many contain hidden truths waiting to be uncovered? Perhaps the most disturbing realization is that children often see and understand more than we give them credit for. Their art isn't always just art. Sometimes it's the only way they know how to communicate something deeply wrong in their world. The challenge is learning to look beyond the crayon strokes, to hear what they're really trying to say. The psychological implications behind these cases are perhaps the most unsettling aspect of all. Child psychologists note that disturbing drawings often serve as a form of nonverbal communication, a desperate attempt to express what young minds struggle to articulate. The stick figures and crude sketches become vessels for trauma, fear, or even warnings that adults frequently misinterpret or dismiss entirely. Consider the common thread in these accounts. Each child exhibited behavioral changes that preceded the discovery of their disturbing artwork. The first boy became secretive and possessive of unexplained treats. The second developed severe nighttime anxieties. The third withdrew into isolation while harboring violent fantasies. These weren't random acts of creativity, but rather symptoms manifesting through art when words failed them. Experts warn that dismissing such drawings as just a phase, or kids being kids, can have dangerous consequences. The American Psychological Association notes that persistent violent imagery in children's art, especially when paired with behavioral changes, often warrants professional evaluation. While most childhood drawings are indeed harmless, those accompanied by real-world correlations, like the appearance of actual knives or unknown visitors, should never be ignored. Perhaps what's most tragic is how preventable some of these situations might have been with earlier intervention. The window intruder might have been stopped sooner. The closet visitor might have been explained. The violent fantasies might have been addressed before they escalated. All it might have taken was someone looking at those drawings not as childish scribbles, but as the distress signals they truly were. These cases leave us with an uncomfortable truth. The world looks very different through children's eyes, and sometimes their art shows us things we'd rather not see. The challenge lies in having the courage to look closely enough to recognize when a simple drawing is actually a plea for help in crayon and construction paper. The deeper we examine these cases, the more we're forced to confront an uncomfortable reality. Childhood innocence often masks experiences too complex for young minds to process. These drawings serve as psychological smoke alarms, silent warnings that something fundamental has shifted in a child's world. Forensic psychologists who study children's artwork identify several red flags that appeared across these cases. The presence of unexplained figures, especially those the child refuses or fears to discuss too. Recurrent themes of intrusion or violation of personal space 3. A stark contrast between the child's typical artistic style and disturbing new elements 4. Physical evidence correlating with drawn elements like the mysterious candies or hidden knife. What's particularly chilling is how these children's behaviors followed predictable patterns of trauma response. The first boy exhibited classic grooming victim behavior: secrecy, unexplained gifts, and compartmentalization. I'm not allowed to tell. The second displayed symptoms mirroring night terrors or sleep hallucinations, yet with disturbing consistency. The third demonstrated early warning signs of conduct disorder through his escalating violent ideation. Child development specialists emphasize that such drawings rarely emerge in isolation. They're typically accompanied by changes in sleep patterns, or explained possessions or injuries, sudden regression in behavior, uncharacteristic secrecy or aggression. The most heartbreaking aspect is how these children tried to communicate their distress within the limited tools available to them. When words failed or felt unsafe, their pencils became their voices. A failure to properly listen to these visual cries for help represents a systemic blind spot in how we protect vulnerable young minds. These cases ultimately challenge us to reconsider how we interpret children's art. What we dismiss as fantasy might be a desperate attempt to make sense of real terror. Those stick figures in the corner of the page, they might be the most important thing a child ever tries to tell us. These disturbing cases reveal a fundamental truth about childhood psychology. When faced with overwhelming experiences, children often communicate through symbols rather than direct language. Their drawings become a secret code of distress, one that requires careful decoding by attentive adults. Child trauma experts point to several critical insights from these cases. 1. The power of repetition. Each child returned obsessively to their disturbing imagery, whether redrawing the shadowy figure, repeatedly depicting the closet visitor, or elaborating on violent fantasies. This compulsive recreation suggests an attempt to process and gain control over frightening experiences. 2. The silence barrier. All 3 children demonstrate what psychologists call traumatic mutism, an inability or refusal to verbally explain their experiences. The first boy's "I'm not allowed to tell," the second's tearful nightly awakenings, and the third's withdrawn behavior all represent different manifestations of this psychological shutdown. 3. The physical evidence connection, perhaps most alarming, was how each child's drawings correlated with tangible elements in their environment. The mysterious candies matching the window intruder's gifts, the open closet door corresponding to the bed visitor, and the hidden knife mirroring the violent drawings weren't abstract fantasies, but documented interactions with their environments. Developmental psychologists emphasize that such cases require a dual approach: secret approximations, like moving the second boy's bedroom, but long-term therapeutic support to process the underlying trauma. The window of opportunity for effective intervention is often narrow. As children grow older, they may stop drawing their distress altogether, internalizing their experiences in ways that manifest later as behavioral issues, anxiety disorders, or worse. These stories ultimately teach us that children's art deserves our most serious attention. A single disturbing drawing might be imagination at work, but when paired with behavioral changes and physical evidence, it becomes something far more significant, a map to hidden trauma that adults have a moral obligation to follow. The alternative, dismissing these visual cries for help, risks allowing preventable harm to continue unchecked. These haunting accounts leave us with a sobering realization. Childhood drawings can sometimes be the only breadcrumbs leading us to dark truths we'd rather not face. They remind us that children communicate in the language they know best, through crayon and paper, when words fail them or feel too dangerous to speak. Perhaps the greatest lesson is this: When a child's artwork unsettles us, it's worth pausing to ask why. Not every disturbing drawing signals real danger, but when paired with behavioral changes or physical evidence, they demand our full attention. The alternative, dismissing them as mere fantasy, risks leaving vulnerable children trapped in situations only their art has the courage to depict. In the end, these stories challenge us to look deeper, listen more carefully, and remember that sometimes the most important truths come not in words, but in the shaky lines of a child's hand. Our willingness to take those drawings seriously might be what stands between a cry for help and a tragedy left unstopped.